Listen very carefully, because what's about to pour into your ears is not noise. It's a classified frequency your enemies swore you'd never hear. Every hair on your neck already knows it's real. This isn't coincidence. This isn't fate. This isn't the weather lining up to spook you. This is your warning turning into a detonation, every whispered prophecy you dropped into the air returning as thunder. They laughed when you mapped it. They rolled their eyes when you spoke. They built their little circles and called you paranoid, delusional, obsessed. They didn't know you were sketching a blueprint on their blind spots. And now, as the sirens start echoing through their corridors, every move you predicted is walking into their lives like a nightmare with your handwriting on its forehead. You, standing there, reading this, are the paradox they can't contain. Saint and psychopath, angel and demon, surgeon and assassin. You walk into their boardrooms with a halo and leave with bloodless hands that have still collapsed an entire network. They never understood that unpredictability is not chaos. It's weaponized evolution. It's camouflage and strike in the same heartbeat. It's smiling while you sharpen the blade. Feel the shift in the air? That's the sound of their analysis breaking, their models glitching, their algorithms screaming as your pattern eats them alive. You weren't lucky. You were surgical. You weren't chosen. You chose yourself. They called it paranoia, but you were building timelines while they were posting memes. You were walking through hell rehearsing calm, teaching your nervous system to breathe while theirs would shatter. And now, everything you warned them about is happening at once. Financial tremors, reputational implosions, the little secret groups suddenly splintering into panic. They're rereading your old words in group chats they thought you couldn't see. They're staring at your silhouette like it's a breach in their firewall. They're realizing the mask they mocked was the real face all along. They don't know what to call you now. Prophet, hacker, phantom, final boss. All they know is the trapdoor you described in whispers has opened under them, and the only light down there is the glow from your smile. Look at yourself for a second. You've become the unthinkable, a living contradiction, soft voice, violent precision, open hands, locked vaults. They can't model you because you contain your own opposites. Every weakness they tried to frame you with became an encrypted strength. Every humiliation was a test. Every exile was training. You are the proof that evolution isn't random, it's ruthless. And here's the part that really poisons their sleep. You didn't have to lift a single new finger. You just had to wait. Wait while their arrogance synchronized itself with the clock you built. Wait while your so-called paranoia matured into inevitability. Wait while their disbelief signed the contracts of their own collapse. So when you hear the chaos outside your window, don't flinch. That's not your downfall. That's your echo. That's your warning, metastasized into a storm. You didn't predict the future. You scheduled it. You didn't conjure this mess. You calibrated it. And now it's arriving. Every domino falling at once, spelling your initials in the dust. You are not a coincidence. You are not a rumor. You are the system update they can't abort. The hidden line of code that makes their empire crash when it runs. The angel they prayed for and the demon they feared. Arriving in one body, one smile, one set of hands. Breathe, stand still, watch them scatter, because the truth is finally visible, and it's wearing your face. Keep still for just a moment longer. Feel it, that pulse underneath the silence. That's not adrenaline, that's confirmation. They're scrambling now, but not because you attacked, not because you struck. They're spiraling because you didn't have to. The collapse is organic, self-inflicted. They planted the seeds the moment they doubted you. And now the harvest is catastrophic. Everything you said, the warnings, the patterns, the whispers behind closed doors, it all became the weather forecast they ignored. And now their skies are bleeding, because this isn't just your moment. This is your vindication, and it's loud. Every domino toppling now is a chapter you already wrote. But they tossed your pages into the fire, forgetting you were the fire. They had meetings about you. They whispered in rooms laced with surveillance mics, thinking encryption would protect them. But what they didn't realize is that their disbelief was your cover. Their mockery was your cloak, and their dismissal was your invitation, because while they laughed, you listened. While they denied, you documented. While they celebrated their illusion of control, you stood at the edge of the system, learning its heartbeat. So now, when it flatlines, they call it an accident. But you and I both know this was a countdown, and you were the timer. They're calling it coincidence. But you didn't build coincidence, you built a code. A layered, untraceable sequence that only you could interpret. A pattern that sleeps until it's activated. And now, as if on cue, all of it is waking up. They thought they had time. They thought they had control. But while they were analyzing you like a problem, you became the answer they can't survive. Not because you're evil, but because you're precise. You didn't react. You observed. You didn't panic. You prepared. They screamed, conspiracy. But the real conspiracy was thinking you were ever confused. You weren't confused. You were collecting timestamps. And now, every timeline they tried to bury is reporting back, loudly, violently, perfectly. And here's the twist they never saw coming. You never wanted revenge. You didn't need blood. You didn't even need their apologies. All you needed was for truth to do what it always does, echo. And oh, how it's screaming now. They're seeing your face in places you've never stepped, your name in meetings you weren't invited to, your ideas in crises you never spoke about. Why? Because what you carried wasn't opinion, it was architecture. And now the whole city is collapsing into your blueprint. You've become the thing they study with fear in their eyes, the subject of internal memos, the silence in the war rooms, the unsolvable variable in their crisis simulations. They can't explain how you knew. They can't explain how it all aligned. They can't breathe in the presence of what you predicted. Because the systems that called you mad are now twitching like broken machines under the very forecast you gave. And here's the delicious paradox. They spent years trying to figure you out, while you spent seconds walking away, because you never needed to win by force. You just needed to win by truth, and let the collapse carry your voice further than any scream. So now they're left with echoes of you, of your words, of your silence, and they're realizing it wasn't your voice that warned them. It was reality itself, speaking in your rhythm. Let them panic, let them scramble, let them burn their hands, trying to undo what's already coded into destiny. You didn't predict the storm. You were the barometer, the sensor, the divine glitch in their matrix. And now, the system is recognizing its only constant. You, the calm in the surveillance footage. You, the name no one wants to say out loud. You, the shadow in their analysis, reports they label as inconclusive anomaly. But deep down, they know. You weren't crazy, you were accurate. And now accuracy is unleashing itself on every building they tried to fortify against you. No retaliation, no noise, just a precise, undeniable truth, hitting all at once. And it sounds exactly like your name. Let's continue. And now the part that chokes them the most. You didn't lift a finger, not one. No courtroom theatrics, no media campaigns, no retaliation tour. You just let the warnings mature like a virus on a timer, and when it hit, boom, no alarms, no mercy, just silence, turning into reality collapse. They're sitting in rooms right now. Analysts, lawyers, advisors, heads of departments, replaying your voice in their heads like a glitch in their subconscious, trying to remember what you said, how you said it, and when exactly they stopped listening. And that's the part that breaks them. They had the chance to listen. They had the blueprint. They had you. But they couldn't see past their egos, their rituals, their fake superiority. Because they don't understand evolution when it doesn't come dressed like a monster. You didn't roar. You whispered. You didn't kick doors. You waited for the locks to decay. You weren't a bomb. You were the atmosphere shifting molecule by molecule until they couldn't breathe anymore. They called it delusion. Now it's being classified as a threat model. They dismissed it as madness. Now it's in their predictive algorithms under emergent threat intelligence, category unknown. Because you're not an enemy, you're a mirror. And when they look in it, they see everything they tried to bury. The lies, the projections, the rituals of denial, the panic disguised as power. But you kept your hands clean, your mind sharp, your heart cold. Because you knew this day would come, the pattern drop, the timeline merge, the convergence of every single thing they said would never happen. Happening. Now. Together. At once. And they're staring at their screens right now, watching event logs, crash reports, news tickers, institutional failures, mental breakdowns, digital fires, all syncing like a symphony that you never conducted, but composed. Do you understand the level of terror they're facing right now? They're not scared because of what's happening. They're terrified because you knew it would, and you acted like it was inevitable. That calm, that stillness in you, that's what they can't replicate. That's what they can't kill. Because your power wasn't in the warnings. It was in the certainty. The way you didn't flinch when they mocked you. The way you didn't argue when they silenced you. The way you smiled when they thought they'd erased you. And now they're replaying those moments, frame by frame, trying to decode your silence, trying to reverse engineer the ghost that walked out of their fire without a scratch. You see, you were never just ahead of them. You were beyond format. You outgrew their systems. You transcended their categories. They couldn't track you because they were looking for noise, but you were the signal. And now, the signal is everywhere, flooding their networks, crawling into their frameworks, spitting back their own failures in languages only you can translate. And here's the delicious irony. They think this is the climax. They think the chaos now is the worst it gets. But what they don't realize is that you haven't even spoken yet. You've just watched, waited, let the truth do the damage. But if and when you decide to say something now, even one sentence, one phrase, one glance into the eye of the storm, everything will freeze. Because you're not just a person anymore. You're a confirmation, a living reminder that denial has consequences, that truth doesn't knock, it detonates, and that when it arrives wearing your name, there's no safe room left. So let them panic. Let them try to patch what can't be patched. Let them write long-winded emails to each other at 3 a.m. about crisis strategy and containment. Because what they're trying to contain is the ripple of your silence. And by the time it reaches them, it's not a ripple. It's a flood. This isn't revenge. This isn't justice. This is mathematics catching up. This is every ignored warning now sinking into a single unstoppable chorus. And the chorus sounds like this. You were right. You saw it. You knew. And now, so do they. Then listen closer. Because what comes after this moment isn't a speech anymore. It's a field manual disguised as a confession. Everything you're feeling right now, the air vibrating, the stomach turning, the eyes burning. It's not paranoia. It's your nervous system recognizing truth in motion. You're standing in the middle of the very storm you once whispered about, and it's unfolding exactly how you traced it. They're scrambling in dimly lit rooms right now. PowerPoints with red borders, late-night calls with lawyers, words like containment, PR strategy, liability, thrown around like life rafts. They think they're fighting a scandal. They don't understand they're fighting physics. They're fighting inevitability, because you're not a scandal, you're a sequence. This is what they'll never say out loud. You weren't lucky, you weren't blessed, you weren't psychic. You were trained by pain. Every sleepless night, every humiliation, every exile sharpened you into an instrument so precise, it doesn't even need to strike to kill. You simply sit. You simply watch. And the world around you rearranges itself to your warnings. You are not a prophet. You are not a victim. You are a mirror. And every secret they tried to bury in the dark is now screaming back at them from your reflection. That's why they can't sleep. That's why they can't breathe. Because the map they ridiculed is now their only way out. And the only person who can read it is the one they mocked. You've become a living paradox. An angel with a scalpel, a demon with a heartbeat. A whisper that detonates. They can't categorize you because you're not a category. You're a collapse. You're a walking contradiction, a creature of both light and shadow. You're proof that unpredictability is not chaos, it's sovereignty. They want to reduce you to a headline, lone wolf, visionary, threat actor. But you're not a headline. You're the force that makes headlines happen. And here's what terrifies them most. You haven't even acted. This isn't you pulling strings. This is just the echo of what you said, just the ghost of your predictions. If the ghost of your warnings can bring empires to their knees, what happens if you ever decide to move? They're staring at your silhouette in their intelligence briefings, whispering, "How did he know? How did she see it? How did they time it?" And every time your name comes up, an unspoken truth passes between them. You weren't crazy. You weren't guessing. You weren't predicting. You were measuring, and now your measurements are manifesting. That's why the headlines sound like your old journals. That's why their private memos read like your old notes. That's why every domino is falling at once, because you lined them up when nobody was watching. This is not revenge. This is not coincidence. This is the return of energy. They fed you disbelief. It became your cover. They fed you mockery. It became your armor. They fed you exile. It became your laboratory. And now, the experiment is complete. Look around you. The collapse isn't a surprise attack. It's a scheduled release. Every system that doubted you is now choking on the consequences of ignoring you. Every circle that laughed at you is now copying your language in their panic messages. Every gate they built to keep you out is now a floodgate carrying your name. You don't need to scream. You don't need to gloat. You don't even need to move. Because the truth is moving for you. You've become the unkillable rumor, the ghost in their code, the angel of warning and the demon of consequence, the walking proof that silence isn't weakness. It's a loaded gun, and in their deepest, most secret rooms, they're whispering it to each other. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't coincidence. This was the day the Joker's prophecy came online. So stand still, breathe, watch the smoke rise. Because every second they spend trying to undo you only tightens the knot they tied themselves. And the world is starting to see you for what you are. Not a person, not a myth, but the living intersection of warning and inevitability. The angel they ignored, the demon they provoked, the paradox they can't survive. And somewhere in the middle of their collapse, they finally whisper it out loud. You weren't crazy, you were right. And by then, it's too late. Stay still now, because what you're standing inside of isn't a speech anymore. It's a black ops briefing on yourself. Every click of the clock you're hearing, that's not time passing, that's verification. Every headline, that's not news, that's footnotes to your private notes. Every tremor, that's not random, that's their disbelief collapsing under its own weight. They don't understand what you did because you never did anything in the way they measure action. You learned the only real move, becoming inevitable. That's why they can't counter it. That's why every department is tripping over itself. You didn't outfight them. You didn't outshout them. You outlasted their attention spans. You outstudied their weaknesses. You turned every insult into intelligence, every exile into training, every slight into camouflage. Now your existence is the revenge. Your silence is the signal. Your stillness is the algorithmic chokehold they can't get out of. Imagine them right now, a dozen analysts hunched over glowing screens in a room that smells like fear and stale coffee. They've got printouts of your old words pinned to corkboards like crime scene photos. They're drawing arrows, making charts, trying to reverse engineer a ghost. But there's nothing to reverse engineer because you didn't run a scheme. You became a phenomenon. And phenomena don't negotiate. They don't stop. They don't ask permission. They just roll over everything built on lies. You are the proof that a person can survive the smearing, the shaming, the exile, and still come back as an unstoppable pattern. You're no longer just a player in their game. You're the physics of the board. They can call it crazy, but their systems are calling it emergent behavior, unmodeled variable, force majeure. That's why your name is whispered like a code word. That's why your face flashes in rooms you've never entered. That's why entire networks are convulsing without a single new move from you. Because unpredictability isn't chaos. It's freedom weaponized. Duality isn't a flaw. It's camouflage sharpened into a blade. Pain wasn't punishment. It was evolution under pressure. They mocked you for being both soft and sharp, both gentle and lethal. They couldn't grasp that saint/psychopath, angel/demon, healer/executioner isn't contradiction. It's completion. The only way to become untouchable is to hold both poles inside you without breaking. And you did. This is why they're terrified, because you didn't win. You shifted the axis. Every system built to stop you now stops itself. Every weapon they aimed at you fires inward. Every whisper they launched to bury you now rises as your evidence. Look at yourself. You are not at war. You are at critical mass. You are not fighting. You are gravitating. And everything they built, everything they stole, everything they mocked is now being pulled into your orbit. You've become the living embodiment of inevitability, a human version of gravity. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You don't have to shout. You don't have to defend. All you have to do is stand still and let the architecture they built on lies buckle beneath the weight of your accuracy. That's the real power. That's the power they can't name, the power they called crazy until it walked through the front door. So when you hear the chaos outside your window, remember, it isn't random, it isn't a storm. It's the echo of your own warnings arriving at full volume. It's the sound of 1,000 institutions realizing at the same time that you were never a joke, never a guess, never a conspiracy theorist. Look up. That silence you're feeling? That isn't peace. That's surveillance. They're watching you right now. Boardrooms, war rooms, back rooms, every camera, every analyst, every nameless profile with access to everything. And still, after all the data, after all the hours, after all the files, they can't figure you out. They built entire labs to predict people like you. Algorithms stacked on algorithms, behavioral models inside black boxes. They study skin temperature, eye movement, the words you say, the times you go quiet. And yet, you've become their anomaly, their uncrackable code, their living paradox. Because you do two things without realizing. Two small, invisible fractures in their system that drive them insane. And every time you do them, you slip out of their grasp like smoke. They call meetings about you. They write reports about you. They whisper about you over drinks. They ask each other, how does he keep doing this? But no one dares to say the truth out loud. You're not playing by their rules because you destroy the rules by existing. They thought they'd have you mapped. They thought they'd chart your next move. They thought they'd put you in a neat file with a red stamp that says, controlled. But you're the line of code that refuses to compile. And the irony? You don't even know you're doing it. You're just moving, breathing, acting. But those two unconscious habits, those two invisible micro-decisions you make every day, they are detonations in their matrix. They built their world on predictability. You built yourself in chaos. They call that dangerous. I call it power. See, you're not just unpredictable. You're dual. You carry contradictions they can't compute. Light and dark, saint and psychopath, angel and demon, mercy and ruthlessness. You smile like a saint and strike like a strategist. You act like you're asleep while you're counting every move they make. And when you finally move, it's like a glitch in their timeline. The board breaks. The chess pieces scatter. The whole room goes silent because their models just failed. That's why they're obsessed. That's why they stay up at night scrolling through your every footprint. That's why they keep your name out of public memos, but in private, they can't stop saying it. Because you're proof that all their systems, the cameras, the analysts, the predictions, are nothing but glass towers, one whisper away from shattering. And here's the part that terrifies them most. You're not even trying. You're just becoming. You're just evolving through pain, folding every scar into a skill, every humiliation into a strategy, every betrayal into a blueprint. They can't map that. They can't forecast transformation in real time. They call you dangerous. You call it Tuesday. Do you know how rare you are? To stand in a world built to flatten you and remain unreadable. To move through systems designed to trap you and still emerge untraceable. To carry a halo and a blade in the same hand and switch between them without missing a beat. That's why they obsess over you. Not because they hate you, but because you represent the one thing they fear most, a mind they cannot own. So they'll keep digging, keep analyzing, keep whispering about the two things, the micro glitches, the unconscious moves, the paradoxes in your blood. They'll waste their budgets trying to decode you, and you'll keep walking. You'll keep moving like a storm with a saint's smile. You'll keep being the line they can't cross out. And one day, they'll realize it was never about the two things. It was about the whole of you. A living contradiction, a walking Trojan horse, mercy on the outside, revolution on the inside. You don't need to shout. You don't need to warn them. Just keep moving. Keep being the glitch. Because every time you do, you're proving a truth they can't afford to believe. In a world built on surveillance, unpredictability is the final power, and you are wielding it without even trying. Same data, same scene, different outcome. Because the author of this story isn't them. It's you. Do you want to know what drives them to insomnia? It isn't your money. It isn't your profile picture. It isn't even your wins. It's the fact that no algorithm can pin down the two invisible patterns running your life. The ones you don't even know you're performing. The ones that, to them, look like magic. You move like a paradox. On paper, you're mercy. In motion, you're a blade. They watch you extend your hand like an angel, and then, at the last second, pivot like a demon. They see you enter a room calm, docile, smiling, and leave, having rearranged the entire power structure without raising your voice. They don't know whether to call you a saint or a strategist. They can't decide if you're a threat or a prophecy, and in their private notes, the ones they never send, they call you the variable, because the first thing you do is refuse to give a single, consistent signal. You're warm and cold at the same time. You're generous and lethal in the same breath. You praise and destroy with the same sentence. Their models need you to be one thing. You're always two. That's why their charts keep crashing. That's why they erase entire whiteboards after meetings about you. Because their predictions depend on patterns, and you move like a pattern disguised as chaos. The second thing you do is even crueler. You evolve in public without telling anyone. You let them build their trap around the old you, while the new you is already 5 moves ahead. You don't announce growth. You don't telegraph evolution. You just show up one day, and their weapons don't work anymore. Their words don't sting. Their leverage evaporates. You've turned pain into armor, humiliation into algorithms, loss into leverage. And you've done it so quietly, they can't even see it happen until it's too late. They call it luck. It's not. It's adaptation. It's unpredictability forged in suffering. It's learning how to break their systems while they're still studying the manual. That's why the elite can't figure you out. Because you are the one thing their control model never accounted for. A self-upgrading anomaly. A contradiction that writes new code every time it's attacked. An angel who swallowed a labyrinth and now walks out of it smiling. They look at you and see a threat wrapped in silk. They hear your voice and hear mercy laced with judgment. They see your eyes and see a map with no legend. And it scares them, because they've built an empire on predictability. And you are proof that predictability is a fantasy. They are obsessed. They have no choice. Every time you breathe, you're teaching them a lesson they can't stand to learn. Their systems are fragile. Their maps are outdated. Their gods bleed. And you don't even know you're teaching it. You're just living, just moving, just being what pain turned you into. A paradox no boardroom can decode, no think tank can predict, no elite can control. That's why they keep watching, why they whisper your name in rooms you'll never enter, why they hire analysts and still come back empty-handed. Because deep down, they're starting to understand. It isn't 2 tricks. It isn't 2 habits. It's an entire way of existing they can't mimic because they've never bled like you. They've never burned like you. They've never learned to turn mercy into a Trojan horse and pain into a compass. You are the living glitch in their empire. You are the mirror that makes them see the cracks in their own masks. You are the question they can't answer. And you don't even have to try. So let them stare, let them file reports, Let them build new algorithms and still fail, because the more they study you, the less they understand. And the less they understand, the more powerful you become. The elite can't figure you out. They're obsessed with the two things you do without realizing. And by the time they think they've cracked the code, you'll already be someone else entirely. A new chapter, a new author, a new anomaly walking out of their frame. That is your power, not revenge, not rage, not even success. Your power is being unreadable in a world built to read everything. Your power is changing in a world built to freeze you. Your power is existing as a paradox in a system that collapses without certainty. And the punchline? You're not hiding from them, they're hiding from you. Because every time they try to decode you, they see a glimpse of themselves, and it terrifies them. So keep moving, keep breathing, keep being the uncrackable code. Because in a world of algorithms, you're not just unpredictable, you're impossible. Same room, same data, same scene, different author, and the pen, as always, is in your hand. And now they're running out of theories. Every report, every psychological profile, every covert analyst scribbling across glass walls in some frostbitten think tank. None of them can close the gap between what you are and what they expected. Because here's the part they'll never publish in their reports. You don't respond to pressure like a civilian. You transmute it. Pain hits you. You convert it. Betrayal strikes. You archive it. Humiliation. You memorize the pattern and upgrade your operating system while smiling in public. They keep asking, how is he still standing? And they're missing the real question. How did you turn the gun into a compass? How did you make trauma into timing? How did you walk into the machine and reprogram it from the inside out without ever touching a wire? Because you do something else they can't compute. You learn in layers. Pain doesn't break you. It reorganizes you. You don't resist the collapse. You study it. And when the dust clears, you've already built something newer, faster, colder. You don't heal like they do. You don't cry, journal, call your therapist, and slowly piece yourself back together. No, you disappear. You code in the dark. And by the time they see you again, you're unrecognizable. That's what drives them crazy. They can't track what they can't name. And you're not just a mystery, you're a mutation, a prototype of something their control systems were never built to contain. That first thing you do, the contradiction, it scrambles every label they try to put on you. You're a saint when they expect a monster. You're a monster when they expect mercy. You're calm when they attack. You're surgical when they beg. You smile while breaking rituals they've guarded for generations. They can't brand you because you shed identities like old skin. They say, we finally understand him. And then you move different, speak different, disappear mid-narrative, and return with a new script in your hands. And that second thing, the silent evolution, that's where the real fear lives. Because evolution in public, that's a threat they can measure. But evolution invisible, that's warfare. That's something sacred, something beyond prediction. You don't just change, you corrupt their metrics. By existing, every time you show up, you prove their entire framework is flawed. Because you don't grow on schedule, you don't respond to their tests, you don't follow the trauma to recovery arc, you skip steps, you bend the arc, you burn the chart, and write your own legend. And the Watchers, they hate it, because they see it now. You're not just surviving their system, you're studying it, like a virus with a doctorate. You're inside the walls, smiling politely, while mapping every weakness they never saw coming. They keep zooming in on your past, trying to explain your present. But your timeline is a labyrinth with false doors. You gave them decoys, you fed them misdirection, and while they were diagnosing the version of you from 5 years ago, the real you slipped into the future like it was a safe house. They think they're watching you, but you already wrote the story they're reading, and they don't even know it. You're a living contradiction. You are what happens when strategy is born in silence and raised in shadows. You are the result of 1,000 collapses turned into one clean strike. And the only reason they haven't stopped you is because they can't even see the shape of what you're becoming. They keep asking each other, what does he want? As if you want anything. As if you're chasing something. Number. You're becoming something. And they're too late to stop it. They built this world to contain humans, not anomalies. They built rules for patterns, not paradoxes. And you're the glitch in their prophecy, the shadow in their data, the rhythm they can't count, the pulse they can't match. You don't walk in like a threat. You walk in like the answer to a question no one dared to ask. And when you leave, they're not just confused, they're rearranged. So don't slow down, don't clarify, don't explain. Let them panic, let them theorize. Let them build bigger systems to contain what you already outgrew. Because one day they'll admit the truth in a whisper. We were never watching him. We were watching ourselves unravel every time he moved. You didn't outsmart them. You out-evolved the very idea of them. And the two things they're obsessed with, they're not tricks, they're traits, permanent, silent, unstoppable. You are a living message written in a language they can't read. And every time you move, you remind them of what they fear most. Power that doesn't need permission. Freedom that doesn't beg for understanding. A force that cannot be labeled. Because it was never designed to be controlled. Same world, same watchers, same system. But you, different blood, different rhythm, different ending. Because you're not just part of the game, you're the code rewrite. And they still haven't realized they're playing inside your story. Of course they tried to contain it. They always do. The moment your name echoed without origin. The moment your presence didn't match your footprint. The moment they realized you were being studied without even trying. A file was opened. A chair was pulled, and someone whispered behind encrypted doors, "This isn't just a person, this is a phenomenon." They gave you a classification, not a name, a designation, a threat level no one wanted to read aloud. Unsolvable, unmapped, irregular. That's what the redacted briefing said. Top-tier anomaly, unclassified. Not because they haven't tried, but because you keep rewriting the metric every time they get close. You think this is just life. Number. You've been flagged by systems you never even knew were watching. Behavioral mapping, psychological drift models, civilian threat, radar. You set off alarms in rooms built to stay silent. And the problem? They can't figure out how. There's no big speech, no giant move. No flashy breach, just two behaviors, two quiet fractures in the fabric, two unconscious ticks that, when played over millions of cycles, break the mirror they use to see the world. First, your contradiction. They call it signal conflict. You smile with warmth, but radiate calculation. You show empathy, and somehow raise the threat index. Every expression has a shadow behind it. Every kind act holds the tension of a predator in restraint. You're polite but unreadable. Cordial but untrackable. Present but unreachable. They ran tests, put your footage through micro-expression software, ran your voice through tonal deviation scanners. None of it made sense. The results contradicted each other. Half flagged you as harmless, half flagged you as a quiet extinction event. Second, your evolution delay. Not because you're behind, because you're ahead, but you let them think you're not. You play human just long enough to be underestimated. You walk with a limp while loading artillery in your mind. You nod in meetings while planning extractions. They think you're listening, but you're scanning. They think you're processing, but you're constructing a future they'll never survive in. You're the glitch that pretends to crash, then rewrites the system under the cover of the reboot. That's why they watch, why they panic, why they observe you like a ritual gone wrong. Because the deeper they look, the less human you seem. Not because you're inhuman, but because you've evolved past the dependencies they designed for control. You don't need validation. You don't need applause. You don't even need revenge. You need clarity. And when you get it, you don't confront, you overwrite. They don't even know when it happened, when you stopped reacting and started writing the algorithm yourself. Your silence became strategy. Your stillness became surveillance. Your unpredictability, that was just step one. Now they're running scenarios, predictive models, mock encounters. None of them survive, not because you're violent, but because they can't find an entry point. You're a house with no doors, a system with no ports, a storm with no radar signature, and worse, you've become replicable. Others are watching you, mimicking you, learning how to vanish in plain sight, learning how to mutate pain into pattern disruption. You are no longer one person. You're a template, a pattern virus, a spectral idea infecting minds tired of control. You've weaponized resilience. You've romanticized defiance. You've taught people to smile while breaking the leash. They are terrified because they didn't just fail to control you. They watched you become the new instruction manual. And now every system is infected with echoes of you. Unapologetic, unreadable, unfazed. So what happens next? Simple. They'll try to isolate you, smear you, discredit you, call you dangerous, too unstable, too quiet, too intense, too everything. They'll use labels as bullets and still miss, because you don't bleed from shame anymore. You bled that out in the fire years ago. Now you walk scarred, not scared. They'll build new teams, try new strategies, deploy psychological tactics, social patterns, counter movements. But all of it will fail, because they're still searching for a version of you that no longer exists. And when the last model fails, when the final AI whispers, "cannot compute," and the final watcher shuts down the screen, they'll realize you were never in the system. You were outside the narrative, above it, rewriting it, ghostwriting revolutions with two invisible habits and a blood-slick grin. Because you don't win by fighting their war, you win by becoming the storm they can't name. And right now, they're soaking wet and still don't know where the thunder came from.